Welcome to the Honest Hour. I'm your host, Luis Acevedo. Messed up the intro. Welcome to MOT Today. I'm your co-host, Luis Acevedo, and with me is Mick. He's going to be going live off of the MOT Today channel. So once it gets in here, we will start the show and get everything rolling. So thanks for sharing. Yeah, of course. Here we go. Let's send an invite, and then we will get this on the road. We got some really interesting stuff to talk about today, and yeah, there's a lot to cover. There's a lot to cover, and it's going to be a good one. What do you know about it? Nothing. I know nothing about HEK 23 or 293. I know nothing about it. What is it? Why should I care to know about it? All right. So, just waiting on Mick to get in here. We're doing it remote this time. We have to switch things up. So, moving forward, we will be doing the MOT today on Saturdays at around 1 o'clock, and then MOT Supreme Court Justice clearance confirmed. Interesting. Knew nothing about it. Interesting. I'll have to look into it. Not surprising, though. A lot of them are. A lot of them contain it. Yeah. So, MOT Sports will be on Sundays in the afternoon. MOT Todays will be on Saturdays. And that's how we're going to be doing it moving forward. And obviously, the Honest Hour will remain the same at 10 p.m. Monday through Friday. And yeah, so what's going on, Mick? Can you hear me? Looks like he's still getting
sick. I can't hear you. Let me try to get my image going on here.
All right. So he's working on getting his camera set up. What's going on, Mick? How are you, man?
Hi. Great.
Good. So yeah,
can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Is the sound quality okay?
Oh, he's breaking up. Either he's breaking up.
I don't know if you guys can hear us all good.
Either he's breaking up or I'm breaking up. So we'll find out here in a second. Having some technical difficulties. All right. I think you're more stable now. Yeah, my Wi-Fi should be a lot better. It's been a lot better the past couple of hours since I got home. So that's good. But yeah, so there's so much to talk about. And the first thing that we really want to cover is going to be the Sri Lanka, what's going on in Sri Lanka, right? There's a huge protest. They just, stormed, I don't know if it's their Capitol building or the president's mansion, what exactly the name for it is, but
it's the presidential residence.
Okay. Yeah, so they just basically took that over. And, it's basically reached the tipping point. There's a lot of reasons as to why this is taking place, but the current situation is the president said that he would resign. The parliamentary speaker said that the prime minister is going to resign. And per their constitution, if the president and prime minister are no longer in office, then the parliament speaker will then assume power in 1 month. So this is a really chaotic time for Sri Lanka, but it's been a long time coming. So Mick, go into a little bit about how this has been building up and some of the main causes for it.
Yeah, we talked about this like 4 months ago in the early stages of MOT. We were way ahead of the curve on this one. And basically what happened is that the government there wanted to implement organic farming across the entire nation. And which, I'm not against organic farming. It's obviously better for you than using chemicals, synthetic fertilizers. But, they were supposed to do this over like a 15-year period or something like that. But instead, they were like, we're just going to do it now. And so they did that. And it collapsed the economy in Sri Lanka because Sri Lanka gets most of their money from exporting like fruits and stuff, like all kinds of exotic fruits and just food in general, because they don't have a whole lot of industry there, and so the government backtracked on that because they saw how bad it was hurting the economy, and then they decided, but then it was too late at that point. And then it's just been kind of spiraling out of control the past few months since then. They were trying to get help from other countries. They're trying to get help from the IMF. They're just like they're not able to pay their debts because they're not making like any money right now. And then inflation at the same time. This all started like right before inflation was getting bad. So not only did they pretty much shoot themselves in the foot, but it was at like the worst time possible. So yeah, they're dealing with a lot of issues. There's like a huge port that China built for them. And they owe China a bunch of money too for that, and like all kinds of crazy stuff. So it'd be interesting to see what happens because a lot of countries have a lot at stake there.
Yeah, so I mean, the organic farming is definitely a key factor in the collapse of Sri Lanka right now. But I think it's important to note that there are a few other factors that at least I can't even say mainstream media because nobody in the mainstream media is really covering this well. But a couple other factors has to do with the fact that they've been relying heavy on imports, right? So they've sort of said we're going to stop, sending out we're going to stop doing exports ourselves. We're going to bring in more things, and we're not going to, worry about so much producing a lot here what we can, and we're just going to bring in a lot of stuff in. So that really hurt them come 2020, right? A couple things happened in 2020. They weren't able to allow their tourism for known reasons, and which is another main source of revenue for them. And the fact that everything was locked down, they're not getting a lot of what they needed. Additionally, since 2019, their foreign exchange reserves, which is just basically their foreign money reserves, primarily the USD, has dropped like 99%. So it's like essentially wiped out. And then, as Mick already mentioned, they defaulted on their debt. And who knows who's really going to help them, right? Because the IMF, China, India, Russia, Japan are really considering, the fact that they don't have anything to offer them. They're just going to basically be carrying a bunch of, just carrying a heavy load of something that is already collapsed and broken. So, and I think another important factor into this, which isn't mentioned at all in the mainstream media, is the fact that, as we mentioned, tourism is a huge moneymaker in Sri Lanka. Huge. But there's a particular kind of tourism that is major in Sri Lanka, and that is sex tourism, particularly young lads. I'll put it that way. Very, very young, like extremely young. And so it attracted a lot of sickos to go there and do those things legally. And so that shows you that there was moral corruption before the economic corruption. And it goes to prove the points that I've made before, that the rise of a civilization is typically the most moral and religious a civilization is. And the fall of a civilization is our society. We can even put society is usually when it loses its moral compass and becomes less religious. And that's essentially what happened to Sri Lanka long before you had the economic collapse that we're seeing. So there is a moral collapse before the societal collapse. And it's just a slow path to hell, essentially. And this is where we're currently at in the Western world, in my opinion, is the slow collapse of the lack of moral, right? Hence the reason it's called the fall. Right, exactly. 100%. So this is a huge, huge deal that Sri Lanka is going through this right now. I mean, it's sort of like the beginning. It's sort of like it's introducing us to what's going to happen in a lot of other countries. Maybe not to the same effect because Sri Lanka is an outlier in this regard, but other countries are going to see something similar to what's going on in Sri Lanka, in my opinion. You got anything you want to add?
Can you hear me okay?
Yep. All right. So Mick keeps freezing up, which is all good. So
I got to back out real quick.
All right. It's all good. So yeah, I think that's something very important for people to understand is that moral collapse happens first, and then you have societal collapse. That's how it works. And Sri Lanka is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, I heard all that you were saying. I'm sorry, I had to. I just remembered I didn't share this stuff on Facebook or nothing, so I just wanted to share it.
It's all good.
But yeah, that's crazy. And I never heard about that stuff till you told me, but I'm not surprised. A lot of those foreign countries over there that don't have, I guess there's a lot of lawlessness. You know, a lot of people, sick people go on vacations and stuff over there specifically for that stuff, not to enjoy nature.
Right. Yeah, and so you had some interesting takes as far as what's going on in Europe and how this may be related in some way. So if you want to go into that a little bit, I know that there's an energy crisis in Germany, but there's also major issues going on.
I'm not going to say they're related, but they're similar to, it's kind of foreshadowing what's happening in Europe with the Dutch farmers. And also, I mentioned this months ago when we were talking about Sri Lanka, is kind of foreshadowing what the U.S. is doing, trying to push this green agenda. We're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot as well. Pretty much the whole world is what it is. So
right.
It's just, and it's interesting to see, could the images we're seeing in Sri Lanka happen in Europe? That would be pretty crazy. So, if they starve, is it worth, quote unquote, saving the planet from climate change to starve half the world's population? And then, those stones came down right at the same time. It's all very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is very interesting. I mean, like a little update as to what's going on with the Dutch farmers, since pretty much we've covered everything that we could about Sri Lanka at this point. The Dutch farmers apparently stole the prime minister's jet, and a bunch of other officials used that same private jet, and they took it. So, I mean, they're really taking their protest up to the next level, and this is something totally unusual.
They took a jet?
Yeah. It's
where they landed at a farm somewhere.
No, like they just put from what I saw in the image, they had one of their tractors with a rope around the jet, and they were like pulling it away. So yeah, I mean, you can check it out. I did a TikTok on it. I apologize. The video is not the greatest quality of which we've made, but you can see the tweet and it gets the point across. And all of this is because of, as Mick stated, climate change, right? We are pushing these policies because we're afraid that the world will no longer be around if we don't, because of the effects of fossil fuels and things like that. Hang on, we got a comment here on YouTube. It says, "Are you guys Hexicans, as in Hex Crypto, fix the money, fix the world?" Yes, we actually both are Hexicans. So we're big Hex fans. I'm probably, I don't know how big of a Hex fan Mick is, but I love Hex. I think it's a really, really good product.
Yeah, I do like it a lot. I mean, I think it's definitely, that's the only crypto I'm really in. I like that, Ethereum, and I think Bitcoin might be all right.
Yeah.
But I'm not really. I also like gold. I'm more of a diversification kind of guy. Louise is an all-in guy.
Yeah. So, but there's your answer to that question. But with climate change, I mean, we are seeing negative effects on society, right? Because we are taking these drastic measures, which are in turn hurting the people in which they're claiming to want to save and protect. And we take a good look at what's taking place in Germany, right? So we see what's going on in Poland, Italy, the Netherlands, and even Germany is participating in this protest in some way, right? Because they're helping the Netherlands block off the border between their two countries with tractors. But then we also have Poland, Italy that are involved in this too. But something else, video guy, Mike High. Other one is low.
It's literally every single country in the world, though. Like, I don't know of any country that isn't at least pretending to make. Maybe Russia. Maybe Russia's the only country in the world that's like, I don't care.
China.
Yeah, I mean, but they act like they are. They have these like goals. They have climate goals they make, and I just heard that actually there's a Chinese company that outsold Tesla on electric vehicles just recently, the last quarter or something.
Yeah,
But people were like Baidu or starts with a B. But people were saying that that's not fair because those electric vehicles were like hybrids. Those two Teslas are all electric, which sounds smarter anyway. So
yeah, yeah. So I mean, like
China gets it, I guess. Huh?
China does get it, Russia gets it. The countries that are going against the Western doctrine get it. We have the Democratic Party USA in here debating with people. Don't know that it's the legit Democratic Party debating with people, but if it is, I'm honored to have you guys in here debating with people. If you're the real one,
Yeah.
so
what do you guys think? What do you guys think? Do you guys think the change is real?
of course they do. It's not even a question. Of
I
course
think
they
that
do.
this. I some people say. I guess the real debate is it like a natural thing that just happens, or is it because of us? That's really the actual debate. Not is it real or not? Because obviously the clouds, the weather does change.
Right. Yeah. So as I was saying, it's obvious that it's real. All the smokestacks and carbon dioxide wouldn't have an effect. Yeah. So the odd thing though is like CO2 is really good for plants. So that's
Also,
something.
forests burn down naturally sometimes,
That too.
so
And
like in nature, and everything that is burning out of the smokestacks came from the earth. So
right.
I think plastic pollution is more of an issue. You can actually see it and stuff.
Yeah, that's
I
definitely
actually heard something recently that their scientists are developing like robotic fish to clean the plastic out of the oceans.
interesting.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah, I remember years ago when I had the YouTube channel The Better World, I was covering this one company that created this interesting contraction to go out into the middle of the ocean and clean up all the plastic. And it's probably still operating. I haven't paid much attention to it today, but there's obviously pollution, there's obviously climate change, but it is an honest debate. It is a real debate. Anybody who thinks that there isn't a debate to be had as to what is causing climate change is just being naive into the narrative, into one side of the narrative, right? I don't think that humans are playing as big of a role on climate change as it is pushed. I think that there is a agenda behind it, certainly by very powerful people who want to have more control over society. I mean, look at smart cities, look at electric vehicles, automated vehicles, and the fact that, for instance, in Germany, they are now rationing their energy supplies, right? And this is because Russia has reduced their oil output into Germany. And the reason they reduced it also makes sense if you're being honest. It's because Germany is an antagonistic country to Russia, as are most Western countries at this point. And Russia is quite honestly in the right when it comes to all of this because they have totally did away with the agreement that was signed stating that NATO would not approach any closer to Russia. And they totally ignored that agreement. So did Ukraine. And Ukraine has been treating the eastern half of Ukraine very, very poorly for a long time. I can't articulate the words exactly as to what was happening here because the censorship is real, but there's huge persecution taking place on the eastern half. And so Russia was doing the right thing. And now they're cutting off supply. And so there's a lot of places in Germany where they're like, yo, we have to ration how long you take hot showers. We covered this early too, early on. And also, we're going to ration when you get when you can have I believe it was air conditioning or something or the light, and they're also doing lighting in the streets, building lighting, hot water in schools. Like 86 schools are now like without hot water, and they're doing all these things to try and preserve the energy in which they have. And so I think Germany is a perfect example of how are not a perfect example, but the canary in the coal mine, if you will, to show us that climate change lockdowns are coming. And the
Yeah.
thing is, too, like I don't buy into the mainstream narrative of climate change at all, not one bit. A lot of it is a lie. However, the climate change is real. The climate changes throughout history, fact. But the main issue here is the way that it's being forced upon us. And we're almost having no choice. And we're just being told that you're bad if you don't do it. So these climate change lockdowns are going to be the catalyst for people accepting the green agenda, in my opinion, the same way that it was sort of the catalyst for what took place after the 2020 debacle, if you
The
catch my
coffin
drift.
sniffle.
Yeah.
The coffin sniffle. So, dude, I just thought of this. It's really interesting that the whole argument for the climate change thing was like, the world's going to end, we have to make a change. And it's like, well, that didn't work. So now it's Russia bad. Like, how was the world ending not enough for people to want to make a change? But now, like, the whole Russia bad thing, people are like getting on board with it more than the world was going to end.
Yeah, well,
It's really crazy.
Russia's going to be the scapegoat. This is how I think climate change lockdowns will be introduced. So it's going to be an act of preservation for our fossil fuels. And the reason that we have to preserve our fossil fuels is because Russia is bad guy. And so Russia gets the bulk of the blame for it, and then
Yeah.
it's introduced for preservation. And then they start changing the narrative that hey, it's to mitigate the CO2 in the atmosphere. And then hey, it's to try and stop inflation. It's to try and stop numerous things. And then it's going to slowly change the society mindset to, you know what, maybe we should get EV vehicles because how will we, like, they'll say, okay, so only these cars can drive. If you have an electric vehicle, you're allowed to drive to and from work. If not, you either have to take public transportation or bike or walk. If you're driving a gasoline car, could be punished for it. I don't know how far it'll make it. I don't even know that it'll make it to the United States, but I can definitely see certain measures in European
In the
countries.
United States. You see people driving around with Ukraine stickers. It already has. You hear people talking. They're blaming they blame Russia for it. They listen to what the old man dribbles out of his mouth. But it's very interesting. I don't think it's a coincidence that in Europe, Germany is at the forefront of this fight against Russia, like this ideological fight, because obviously Ukraine is at the forefront of it. But it's not a coincidence that Germany is at the forefront of it by not taking showers and stuff, because they almost were a part of Russia if it wasn't for the wall coming down supposedly and all that. So that's something I was thinking about the other day. That's pretty interesting. Like how things could have potentially been differently, and maybe how important that actually was that whole time period.
Yeah,
How things develop now.
yeah, there's definitely significance into what happened during that time period, but I I think that what's happening right now is very different than what was happening in World War II. Because the enemy is really obvious. It's not Russia or China. Russia and China are actually the good guys in this situation. And it's not to say that I want Russia or China, I want to live in Russia or China. It's not to say that I think Russia and China are the greatest countries in the world and their political system is spot on. It's not to say that at all. But the reason being is that Russia and China are promoting sovereignty, are promoting nation over globe. And that's very important. And the Western world is promoting globe over nation. And so if you have globe over nation, you can't have a cohesive society. You can't. There's no way. And so that's why we see new religions being built all the time, such as scientism, transhumanism, and yeah, I mean, this is also why we see New Age thinking as well.
Yeah.
These are all tools of control for the global agenda.
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. originally wasn't focused on like other nations. When we got into globalism, it all started going downhill. Before the world wars and stuff, I think the U.S. is probably a much better place, much more family oriented. Whenever we started interfering with other nations and stuff like that, not to say that who am I to say if the wars, we should have been involved in them, but I'm just saying that once we started interfering with other nations, there was a period of time in America where there was peace. Wasn't there like 100 years of peace and long, long ago? I think this was before the whole globalism.
Yeah, I'm not too sure, but I would say that globalism has always been around. It's not a new phenomenon. This is what a lot of people think as far as globalism, that it's a new
but the
thing.
U.S.
But
wasn't always like the world
well,
police.
I would say that they were always designed. I would say the United States was designed for that. That's sort of how its inception, came to be, because you have this manifest destiny, if I recall correctly, or dynasty. Let me double check that. Manifest destiny. Yeah, so it's a 19th century doctrine. So it's not exactly at the beginning of the United States, but it's fairly early in the United States history, that the expansion of the U.S. throughout the American continents were justified and inevitable. So you can extrapolate to then say manifest destiny became the entire world. And that's how we became the world police, is because America should rule everything, quote unquote. I'm not saying that we should, but that's
So
the
that
imperial.
would mean that there's people like thousands of years ago, there was people looking at a map, drawing it out, like we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, planning out the next 1,000 years. I mean, that's almost kind of like godlike. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of crazy to think that. I mean, that's like the ultimate conspiracy type shit.
Not really. I mean, empires do that. That's what empires do, right? So the Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire.
It's a little bit more than just an empire, though. That's like a secret, controlled empire that you're renaming, shit like that. You're saying that this was all planned out.
I'm not saying this was all planned out.
Or that it's just a theory you have.
No, that's not at all. I'm not saying that somebody had this grand plan for the United States to be the global power for thousands of years. No. What I'm stating is the manifest dynasty, or destiny rather, was developed in the 19th century, and it stated that the United States would inevitably conquer all the American continent, south and north. And it's extrapolating, so then you can extrapolate it out to saying, why stop at the Americas and not expand into other countries? And that's sort of, in my opinion, how the United States became the world police. Now, I did say earlier that this idea of globalism, global imperialism, has always been around. I don't think it's anything new. Rome wanted to conquer the world. The Ottomans had some inclination to do that as well. There's also the Tartarian Empire, which most people are totally unfamiliar with, but it looked like they had a global empire as well. So this desire for very powerful nations to take over the world has always been there. Always been there. It's nothing new. Globalism is nothing new. It's the same song and dance that's been around since the dawn of time, essentially. And America is just the new spearhead.
Globalism, I get it. It's always been a thing, because for thousands of years people have been traveling and bartering and trading and shit like that. Yeah, I get what you're saying. But there was a period in America's history where it was not like it is now. You know what I'm saying? Like when we first got on our feet, shit. Like it was more like build up what we have type shit instead of trying to like conquer other nations and shit. So,
well, before that time, that's also debatable, right? Because you have the War of 1812, right?
Well, it's not really debatable because you said the beginning of empires is less. It is more moral.
No, not empires. That's not what I said. I said societies. Not all societies are empires. They're distinctly different.
Okay, so the beginning of American society would be more moral than it is now.
Yes, but it doesn't mean that there were less wars. So the reason I say that is if you look at the war so first off, America's inception was in a war. And they were warring for a long time. A long time. And then the next big war to come along, which isn't really talked about much, is the War of 1812. We tried to take over portions of Canada. We just did some more negotiations with the Indians, trying to get more land over there.
The British and the French were up there battling too.
Yes.
And they were also trying to work against us together, and all kinds of crazy shit was going on.
Yep. Yep. And so you also have the little battles that would take place as we set out to conquer all of what is the United States. And that took a long time. So you then also have to consider the Civil War, which happened not too long after the War of 1812.
Yeah.
So
there was the war against, we went to war with Mexico a little bit too.
Yeah, exactly. So America is a war
but
nation.
I think after that, though, what I'm saying is like after that, though, I think that that was like the longest period. After that was the longest period, other than maybe a few little.
Well, then after that, so let's say after, let's say,
the time.
Yeah, well, let's say after the Civil War, well, then very shortly thereafter, you have World War One, and then you have World War Two, and then you have the Korean War, and then you have the Vietnam War, and then you have the Gulf.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I think there was a period in between that Mexican little issue we had and World War One. I think there was like a period of time that was supposed to be like the longest period of peace in the U.S. And it was fairly early, and I don't know. I'm just saying maybe it was more moral, better times then.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, nobody's debating that it wasn't more moral, because just because you have war doesn't mean societies can't be more moral. There could be moral wars. There could be justified wars for sure. So
then there was a lot. Actually, there was actually more war and more bloodshed probably back then. Like nowadays, we're kind of common, but back then it was like more in your face.
Yeah, for sure. And no, we're not related. So yeah, I mean, no, it was definitely a more moral, right? It was a more moral society. They had an honor culture, and yeah, I mean, these things are true. But
don't feel sorry, Renat.
Just popped in. Sorry, no worries, no worries. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. Hope the baby's doing well. But yeah, man. So
climate change is real.
Yeah. Do you think climate change is real? I think a lot of people who say no to that, thanks, same to you, thank you. I think a lot of people who say no to that just get triggered. Like, here's the issue. A lot of conspiracy theorists, a lot of truthers, they don't realize that they get triggered as well. And so, honestly, disclaimer everybody, if you're a truther and you see my stuff up here when it's provocative, like earlier today, that one world government is good, cashless societies are garbage, or they'll never happen. All these things, gold standard sucks. Just know that I'm testing you. I'm showing you that you get triggered as well.
Did you do a live stream earlier?
I did. Yeah. So you believe climate change real? Obviously, the climate is always changing. Hence why they had to change the name numerous times from global cooling, global warming. People weren't buying into those narratives. So now it's climate change. So yes.
We had an ice age. It thawed out. This was all before pollution. What's going on?
Allegedly, Antarctica was a tropical island.
Yeah, allegedly. This all.
Yeah. Did you know Russia wants climate change to happen? Okay, good. LOL. I get triggered when people are stupid. Yeah, I get that. Serbia.
Well, we're not stupid. You don't have to worry about that here.
Would become inhabitable much more. You are so right about that. Yeah, but there's just a big misunderstanding with climate change. Like, the debate is it man-made or is it natural? And it is definitely.
I think Shalita is a bot.
Probably.
Because they keep saying you are so right about that over and over again.
Yeah, maybe.
Are you a bot, Shalita?
Right. So it's the real debate, which I can understand, is it man-made or natural? I would argue to the case that it's more natural than man-made, but then that's also kind of a stupid argument as well, because man is nature. Man is a part of nature, right? So to say it's so like
take get that question. Was that on YouTube?
What are you talking about?
is it man? Oh,
No,
you didn't see that question. You're just answering
no,
what the common question is.
yeah, no. I was just saying there's a debate. That's the debate:
Yeah,
man-made versus natural. And so it's like it doesn't make that question doesn't make any sense because man is a part of nature.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting that Ren Stuffs 30 says both probably, which is interesting because not very many people normally say that.
But I'm saying that there is no distinction because man is nature. Man is a part of nature. So climate change is natural.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a pretty logical argument there.
Did you know
Just
that
like I was
there's
saying that.
go ahead.
Just like I was saying, whenever the chemicals were going up in the air, people were like, the smokestacks, the chemicals. I'm like, well, all that shit came from the earth anyway, so it's like that's natural.
Right, right.
You
Did
just
you
don't want to be like breathing it in directly or like eating it. It's just
yeah,
common sense.
right. Then we got did you know there's a canyon 3 times larger than the Grand Canyon underneath? Did not know that at all. That's very interesting. Are we? That's the question she had.
We need our friend from Greenland to come on and talk about that.
He was on earlier. He was telling me that he's trying to change my mind from my fascist beliefs. And I was like, my friend, I don't think you know what that word means because I am not a fascist.
Well, hopefully he comes back on. He can talk about this canyon.
I doubt it. I doubt it because he was putting his son
Probably
to bed.
asleep over there.
Yeah, he was putting his son to bed at like 7 o'clock our time in the evening. So, but yeah, so okay, so Ren Snuff 30 were we created by aliens? And if we were created by aliens, aliens are natural as well. Then if they're real, so
Yeah, I mean, what isn't natural? I mean, everything. How can you say something isn't natural? Like, what does that even mean?
yeah, that's always a good one. Like the artificial intelligence, I've always questioned the artificial intelligence. Like, is it really artificial because it's not fake? It's real. It should probably be called like synthetic intelligence. But what do I know? I'm not a programmer. I'm not a tech nerd. I don't get any of that shit. So, but it sounds like it would be more logical to call it synthetic. And I think things should be called synthetic as opposed to artificial because it's, I don't know.
Like the synthetic fertilizer in Sri Lanka.
Right, right. But there are things that are garbage, obviously. You think it's going to get to the point of hell no. I had a really interesting conversation with a programmer. He was a IT guy programmer about will AI become sentient, and we both agree that it will not. And the reason it will not become sentient, and if so, does that mean it's a person? Good questions. No, it will not become conscious because all artificial intelligence has, or synthetic intelligence has, is logic and pattern recognition. To be conscious is to have more than logic and pattern recognition. It is a part of consciousness, but it is not the whole thing. It's lacking wisdom. It's lacking intuition. It's lacking emotions. It's lacking, I would say, arguably, it's lacking the divine spark of what truly makes something conscious. So
And how could humans? It would be hard for humans to program that into a machine whenever most humans really struggle with those things anyway.
yeah, so I would say this too. Like that's a really good point that you bring up. So what the AI will do, right? So this is something that I think is very likely to happen with AI. So there's a talking app with an AI. It's called Replica, and so you can chat with this AI bot, and this Replica bot will basically pick up on your language, pick up on what you like to speak. It is called manipulation, exactly. And so basically, what it's doing is it's finding out what it is you like to keep you engaged in the conversation. So it's keeping you engaged in the conversation based on the data that you're giving it. And that's all it's doing. So all the AI is doing is creating a positive feedback loop with the data you're providing it to keep you engaged and to make you believe it is sentient, but it isn't sentient. All it's doing is picking up data. And when it comes to the emotional part of it, wisdom, etc., all that, it can pick up on data that will give it pattern recognition and logic to mimic. emotions and mimic wisdom and mimic intuition, but it won't actually have it itself. It'll all be fake, essentially. It'll be a mirror.
It's all programmed. It's not like humans like create their own, like there's the creativity factor, whereas like with a robot it's all programmed. Like even if you program like an algorithm to like create sentences or something, none of that is like original. Whereas like if a baby, like says some random gaggle or some shit, you know what I'm saying? Like that's like an original from them, never been created before type shit. So
Yeah.
You can't create that.
Interesting point right here. So we have give me a second. Hear me out. What if it could actually get conscious and we are all living in virtual reality, living as a conscious AI? That's interesting. Being run by who knows what. Being run by who knows what.
Where's this on YouTube?
No, it's on TikTok.
Oh, okay, I see it, yeah.
Yeah, so it could actually get a conscious, and we are living in a virtual reality. Well, arguably, we are living in a virtual reality. Some people call it the mind of God, and then you could say that we are God's NPCs.
Well, Tim, the Earth is round, said, "Let's hear some breaking news." Hoorah! Like that. Yeah. But hey, guess what, dude? Like, you think the Earth is round or what? Like,
is this? Uh-oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Is the Earth round? Host must be home now. Your internet is shaky from away from your window. That's interesting take on it. Yeah. Wow. Interesting thought.
Looks fine.
Yeah.
Looks
so,
fine to me.
Thank you. Yeah, I am home though. I am home. I am home. I suppose if God were real, yeah, there has to be a God though. I mean, because nothing begots nothing, and something begot something. So it's a very easy, logical conclusion.
I don't like the argument that we're like in virtual reality or something. I think that gives way too much credit to virtual reality. Like I think that's disrespectful to God. Like that's not like I don't. You're giving way too much credit to virtual reality if you think that we're living in a simulation or some shit. I think that this is way too amazing to be some kind of virtual reality thing. I just think it's nuts. I don't like that argument at all.
Why though? I mean, give me reasons.
Because I've never because this is an unexplainable experience, and so to relate it to something that you have experienced, which is virtual reality, like you can experience virtual reality, to like say that this could be that. It's not. It doesn't even make any sense. Like it's obviously indistinguishable.
Indistinguishable.
You see the difference between indistinguishable.
Indistinguishable.
That's not my words. Indistinguishable. Yeah, there's an obvious.
Apparently, they can't hear you, dude. So, I would say to that, if you think about our mind.
Can you hear me now?
I can. I could hear you the whole time. They couldn't. So, can you hear Mick?
Can you guys hear me better now?
I'm too conscious to be virtual. My Nintendo character doesn't think it's sentient. Yeah, they can hear you.
Okay, yeah. Good. No, I'm saying that there's an obvious distinguishable difference between reality and virtual reality, and I think it's disrespectful to whatever the creator is, whoever created this wonderful world, amazing world we get to live in, to say that it could be a simulation of virtual reality. It's just like, I never really liked that argument. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I think that I could be wrong. We obviously don't know this to be true, but there's an argument that I've posed a while ago regarding living in God's mind. I think that we live inside of God's mind almost. Where, if you think about it, so I'm going to use Christian, just so everybody is aware of where I'm coming from. I'm using a Christian framework. So just hear me out. If man was created by God's breath and essentially, is created by his word. Well, what if that is just the thoughts inside of God, essentially, right? Not his breath necessarily, but the words, right? The thoughts are us essentially um, living out in God's mind. I have to reconsider this. I haven't talked about this argument in quite some time. I feel like that's a not good thing to be offended at the thought of questioning your reality. Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, it's good to question your reality for sure. I don't think it's offensive to question that, but it is what it is. Everybody has their own way of viewing the world and viewing what's respectful and disrespectful. I get that. But when it comes to virtual reality is very interesting because all you're doing, I've always consciousness experiencing a self. Yeah. So with virtual reality, I feel that it would help people have spiritual experiences. And the reason I say it'll help people have spiritual experiences is not because of what virtual reality will do necessarily, like to your mind, but not to your mind, but like to the games you'll play, to how you'll interact. But it'll show you like this understanding of your, who you are, your ego, and then your higher self, if you will, right? Because if you're in virtual reality, you see that you're controlling this character and it feels like you're actually controlling this character. I have a virtual reality headset. It's very immersive. And so you'll be controlling this character with your mind, with your hands, but you understand that it's not you in the character. You're outside of the character playing the character, if that makes sense. So it can be somewhat illuminating, I think, in that regard. Believe in ghosts or spirits. I mean, I believe in angels and demons, if you want to call those spirits. But as far as ghost, like a haunted house, new age, right? This isn't new age. This isn't new age. A lot of people get new age confused. I'm not speaking new age. I'm not a big new age guy at all. I think new age is very corrupt and satanic, in my opinion.
Louis,
Yes.
so you say that you think virtual reality can help people experience spirituality. Explain a spiritual experience.
I just did.
What is that?
I just explained it. So you're playing a character in virtual reality.
Yeah, you're playing a character.
You're playing the character. You're controlling the character. You're aware that you're controlling the character.
Yeah.
You are aware that you're not the character, that you're a higher being than the character. Extrapolate that out into the real world. You're not just your ego, there's a spirit to you as well. Some call it the higher self. And so it'll help you.
So you're saying like basically like playing a video game could help you realize this as well. I mean, I guess how would you?
Yes.
But like, what would the virtual reality experience be? Can you kind of like explain what the
it could be anything. It could be anything. I mean, you just hit it right on the head. It could be you just playing a regular video game. You see that you're not the actual character in the video game, but you're controlling the character. And so there's this spiritual concept of a higher self. And so you can then create the analogy that the controller of the video game is the higher self, as is you are in the real world. So then we have like experiencing a parallel universe right beside you and moments cross when you experience paranormal things. Yeah, kind of, for sure. And then I consider it a multiverse context. Okay, you consider it in a religious context. I don't think that. Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
So you're saying just because like, so I mean, I was joking around saying the video games thing, but I mean, if someone's playing a video game and they're playing Modern Warfare and they're like they get blown up, they realize, I didn't actually get blown up. I mean, how is that? It's not like a spiritual experience. Like what I'm saying is, can you try to explain how this virtual reality is going to do that? Like, what is the, how I'm relating it to video games, because that's kind of like what virtual reality is in a sense. Like, what is this experience that would help create people, like make people more spiritual?
Well, I just told you it illuminate. I mean, it's really simple. Like you may have to just do some research on the higher self and the spiritual context of it to really understand what I'm saying. But
I'm saying, how is it any different than video games? I guess
it isn't. I'm just saying
video games enlightening people to.
Yeah, so it's the immersive aspect of it. It's that it's more immersive. So then the
Okay, I see what you're saying, because they have the goggles on, and maybe there's like more fear, and there's more like adrenaline, and actual like your body actually thinks it could potentially be happening to you. Yeah, I guess I could see that.
And it's not so much like it's this mystical spiritual experience, more so than it is a spiritual awakening.
Yeah, I don't know. I still think that reality, like, and not even like something scary like that or something. I just, whenever your child is born, or just like the day-to-day activities with your child, I think those are more spiritual than any type of virtual reality headset could give you.
I agree. Nobody's making the argument that it's the other way around. I'm not saying that video games and virtual reality are more spiritual than being around your children. I think that when you look at children, you see a glimpse of God in a way, because they're so pure, they're so innocent, they're so honest, they're so trusting. So it's an open interpretation. We don't know. We don't know. But one thing that we can be certain of, if you use your good old noggin, is that something begot something, and nothing begots nothing. Therefore, something created where we are and us.
Yeah, something happened. And, like I've said a bunch of times, everybody in the whole world, this is the question. It seems like every single time we have a live stream, it always comes back to this. It's like the unanswerable question. And in Buddhism, I think I read this book, religious text called the Dhammapada, a long time ago. I think I was in like 9th grade or something. And it was about the Buddhist religion. And one of the things that it was called the Unponderables. Like, I don't even think, I'm not sure. I'd have to look back into this. But from what I remember reading, it was called the Unponderables. It was like part of the religion. They didn't even talk about it because they are like, what's the point? Mm-hmm. We're never going to figure it out. So it was kind of like a waste of time or something, maybe. And they just focused on, maybe that wasn't part of reaching enlightenment, figuring out what the truth is, because you're never going to figure it out.
Yeah, so this is where we see some overlap with Christianity. Most people aren't aware of this because all they know is Protestant Christianity. But Orthodox and Catholic Christianity understand that there are mysteries that we'll never know, and that you can meditate on them, but you'll never know them. And this is also why Gnosticism is sort of shamed and considered a heresy, because it's pointless.
You mean like being agnostic?
No, Gnosticism, which is
agnostic. It just like has no.
Gnostic.
So I thought maybe they were related.
No, Gnostic is the opposite of agnosticism. So agnostic is like not knowing. Gnostic is knowing. So Gnosticism is a spiritual belief that the more you know, the more you'll become enlightened. However, it's a trap, and this is what I would consider is the tree of good and evil. The tree of knowledge of good and evil, the reason why we weren't ready to eat that, well, Adam and Eve, who knows, maybe at some later time, God would have been like, yo, you guys are ready to eat that tree, eat from the fruits from the tree. But anyway, what we're seeing...
It's not ripe yet.
Yeah, it could be, right? So with the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you are then going down this endless rabbit hole of trying to know things that you'll never know. And that's what I think is really like behind the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And so you get Gnosticism, which is like searching for knowledge to become enlightened, which is pointless because you'll never have enough knowledge to truly know what is real and what isn't real. And let's see, religious people claim, though, they are 100% right. You do that. I am 100% right on some things, for sure. There are a lot of things that I'm not 100% right on, and I'll say that. Like, for instance, I think...
thinking you're right.
No.
And then, same with you.
And I want to... Go ahead.
Everybody has their own opinion. Like that's the problem in society. Like everybody's allowed to think they're right, and you shouldn't get upset about it because you can't change shit about it. Like
yeah, so
it's part of life. It's better than whining and being afraid and not thinking you know anything. I think it's better to be confident and to think that you know what the truth is than to just like be like lost, wandering, and
yeah, well, I was just about to say that, anybody who pays any attention to these streams for any amount of any length realizes very quickly, especially for me, I don't claim that I know everything. I've been wrong live on stream. I've admitted when people correct me in the chat that I'm wrong. And Dunning-Kruger effect is like when you think, like when you get a little bit of knowledge and then you think you know a lot more than you do, but then you progress along that trajectory and then you're like, oh, wow, I need to learn a lot more. I've had a lot of those experiences. But as Mick was saying,
it's the difference between us and traditional media. Like we think about shit. Like we're willing to accept like if I was wrong about that.
Yeah.
You and like see that, that's the difference.
Yeah, and this is why I like to say and this is why I like to say we may be wrong, but we'll never lie to you. Like as soon as we find out we're wrong, I have no issue, pride-wise, to be like, yo, I'm wrong. But the issue today, a big issue today, why people think they know everything about God and religion and such. Yeah, nobody here is claiming that I know everything about religion. Hence why Mick and I were just talking about the overlaps between Buddhism and Christianity. Christianity accepts there's some mysteries that we'll never know. Buddhists accept that there's some mysteries they'll never know. So I'm not here. Yeah, in general, yes. And you know why? It's very easy. I don't know why you don't understand it. You probably do understand it. It's because they get comfortable in thinking that their beliefs are true. It's more comfortable to think that that's true than to claim you don't know. Like me, for instance, I will tell you when my thing, like it's faith. For real, I think that there's a logical conclusion that there is a God. I think it's very logical. I think it's very obvious. I think that's 100% true. However, I go off of faith that it's the Christian God that is the true God. To be 100% honest, it's just faith. I go off of faith that, Jesus Christ was a real person and died for my sins. I don't know that it did much more than that as well. It showed me the way, right? But I can't actually prove it. I think that it's insane when Christians try to use historicity to prove Jesus Christ existed. You know why I think it's insane? Because we can't even prove that Plato existed. We can't prove anybody in antiquity in Jesus' time existed. It's like impossible to do. So there's an element of faith when it comes to that.
I know Plato existed because my kid was playing with it the other
Right.
day.
Well, it's Plato, not Play-Doh.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I misheard you.
Yeah, it's all good. But, it's faith. So, and I think that people just need to be more accepting to faith and accepting to not knowing things. Like we just don't know that anybody that we claim was alive in like 500 BC. We don't know that they were real. We objectively don't know they're real. We're going off of limited information and then saying they were probably real. Right? We just really don't know. But we can have enough evidence to suggest that their existence was legit, but we'll never know for sure because we don't got a time machine. Right? So, people just have to be more confident in faith. There's nothing wrong with faith. And then also I want to add this, that more men, this is a huge issue in society today, is that too many men are hedging for the likelihood it is probably wrong, but in all likelihood, we don't know. Right, but there's a likelihood. There's a probability. All I'm saying is we don't know. That's all. There's a faith that these people existed. We just don't know. That's all I'm saying. It could be a 99.99% chance that they existed, but we can't know for sure, right? But we can infer and we can suggest, hey, they were real. Like, I think Plato was real. I think Aristotle was real. Like, I have no issue accepting these characters were real. I think Jesus was real. I think Peter and Paul were real, right? But it's very hard to prove that they were actually real people. But the point that I was going to make too, and then Mick, you can say whatever you were going to say. Men today are too weak to make any claims, to make any statements, because they're afraid it's going to be used against them. They're afraid that they're going to be censored, and they just don't want to be wrong. People today don't want to be wrong, and that's a shame. Like, come on. Like, as a man, you should be able to speak what you're going to speak confidently. And if somebody says you're wrong, it's not a big deal. Like, this is like the feminization of men is what's taking place. Like, it's understandable because women are more passive in nature already. They like to be passive aggressive. It's cool. It's cool. It's all right. It makes sense why they're that way too, because they're not built to be confrontational as men are. Men are built to be like, yo, you talk some shit, we're gonna go. Like, you don't like me, I don't like you. Our aggressive nature is direct, and it's because we're made for conflict. Women aren't. So men shouldn't be afraid to be like, you're wrong and you're stupid. I'll tell you why. I'm built like a man. Well, okay.
You never know nowadays. I don't even know who the person is. You know this person? This is your buddy? Oh, in the
yeah, yeah. So I don't know. What do you got to say to that, Mick? You got anything you want to add?
Yeah, yeah. We went down the spiritual path. You know, we always do. And
oh, you asked me, is the Earth round?
Yeah, I was asking that guy, is the Earth round? I don't know. We can get into that. What do you think, Renoff? What? All of you. It says there's 8 people in here.
Yeah, they're all going to
say. The Earth
round? I'm willing to bet it's going to be like near 100%. First one, it's not. Cool. So we got some disagreement in here. Cool. I like it. And I'll tell you my opinion. It's egg-shaped. Uh-oh.
2 people already dropped out since we asked that. Dang it, we asked the wrong question.
So it's globe Earth. We'll just call it globe Earth. Since we got, somebody in here who wants to try and be technical.
Is it spinning or is it
stationary?
Stationary. Because it could be spinning like, is it orbiting or is it spinning?
I'll tell you what. That's one thing we don't know.
It's obviously a glove.
A globe.
Oh, okay, a glove.
It's not obvious.
I'll just say that'd be something, that'd be crazy because, baseball is a ball. So.
I will say that it's not obvious, and the reason I'll say it's not obvious, even if the Earth is a globe, I will die on this hill that it's not obviously a globe. When I step outside, nothing around me is spinning. The only thing that's spinning is things in the air, and it looks like they're spinning around me, not that we're spinning around it. Don't get triggered, everybody. Hear me out, because observably, this is what everybody sees objectively. Come on, guys. Infer what I mean through my typos. Yeah, we got you. No, I got you.
I'm making bad jokes, that's all.
So, when you step outside, observably, everything is stationary. When you look in the sky, it looks as if things in the sky are spinning around us. So it's not obviously a globe.
Yeah, I mean, I just noticed this giant thing that I walk and drive around on, and I try not to worry about it too much. Like, I don't even know, man. Like, it's just like, it is what it is, bro. Like, this, I like the idea of space and stuff, but, I've heard a lot of arguments on the other hand, and that's the problem with the world. Like, what we were talking about, how, like, people just don't have an open mind, and they think they know everything.
Right.
At time, you gotta have an open mind about everything. And yeah, it's okay to have your beliefs that you really believe in. And if you really believe in it, that's fine too. But me personally, I just have an open mind about things. I don't know what the truth is. That's pretty much how I am with a lot of things. But obviously there are some truths, like you were saying. So yeah.
Yeah. So, like you're saying, but the science is pretty clear here. I would suggest David Weiss, looking into him, and also Crow 777. And there's a bunch of other quote unquote flat earthers who have used quote unquote science to show that a lot of the things that work on a globe Earth would also work on a flat Earth, which is very fascinating. Once again, I make no claim either way. as of right now because I really, really don't know. And I feel like I would be too naive to suggest either way. I know in the past I said that I believe this is like a plane of existence in which we live on. Yeah, I believe that this is, I think a better way to phrase it would be a realm of existence. Every flat earther I have heard, though, thought they were right. Thought they were so right and sounded so ridiculous in trying to prove it. Well, I will say this: there is a really good argument about the stars. The stars and the constellations around us never change, so that's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's also
There's
very
a lot of different arguments.
yeah, and it's
There's a
also
whole bunch of them. Did you see the comment before that too?
no.
I like to reserve the right to say I don't know. No one has successfully managed to prove both.
Yeah,
It's true.
100%.
There's a whole bunch of different experiments both sides have done or whatever. Yeah, I mean, but the main narrative is that it's round, obviously.
Right, and it's also very interesting. Thank you from Serbia. We appreciate the support. And it's also very interesting because there's a couple interviews with people who are over 100 years old, and they said that they were taught the flat Earth in school. Very interesting because
because that was like earlier in the U.S.
Yeah, and they claim that we've known the globe Earth forever, but that doesn't pan out. And also, NASA is a big liar.
2022 can't trust NASA 100.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, NASA can't be trusted. The government can't be trusted.
Yeah, you had that recent video you showed me where they were like, we're orbiting the space station. We're in the space station orbiting Earth right here in Houston.
In Houston, yeah. They were like, yeah, we're right in Houston. But the guy before him says, we're in the International Space Station orbiting Earth. Yeah, right here in Houston. Like, what the hell? Yeah, the gov is absolutely sus as AF. Yeah, so that's where a lot of the flat earthers come from, that perspective that, like, yo, you're extremely sus. Your science is extremely sus. And NASA is extremely sus.
I love the idea of space, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've heard a lot of stuff that makes me think about stuff, I'm very open.
Yeah, you know what? And I want to add this too, like, guys, I am a big science fiction nerd when it comes to books. I love reading science fiction books. I love it. It started to destroy my world a little bit when I realized that we may be on a flat plane and we can never go and become space civilizations.
Did you read Ender's Game?
No, I haven't. I think we have it though, but I haven't read it.
You gotta read that, dude. That's a really good book. You'll like that one.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. So it says right here, I think it goes further than our understanding. Humans can only imagine what they can see. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. But trust me, guys, I really got into this mysticism orthodoxy where there was this view in the ancient, not in the ancient, but in like the 1900s in the Soviet Union Orthodox Church that man will be risen again through technology, and then they'll become a space-faring civilization, and that will be the second coming of Christ once we conquer the galaxy and the universe. So I used to be really attracted to these thoughts, but ever since I've been hearing and seeing the evidence for a stationary Earth, it's kind of hard. I don't know what to believe. Like I have an attachment to globe Earth as well. I like the idea of being able to go travel to Mars. But I may never be able to go to Mars because Mars may not even be a planet. Mars might just be a damn light.
Bro, I got this video game that I got like before I even had thoughts about the whole flat Earth thing. And it's called No Man's Sky. And you can like fly to different planets and shit. It's fucking dope. What?
I said, I think I have that game.
For a PlayStation 4 or something? Or?
No, it's the Outer Worlds. The Outer Worlds is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Maybe you'll have to check it out sometime.
Yeah. I've seen gameplay for it. She said, I like the idea of questioning absolutely everything about existence. 100%. Me too. It's very fun. I love the idea of round Earth too. Yeah, I mean, it sounds really cool, doesn't it? It really does sound cool that we're spinning in this vacuum, which also doesn't make any logical sense. I'll just say it doesn't make any logical sense that we're spinning in a vacuum. Like, you can make a vacuum with your mouth and a straw. Like, how can anything exist in a vacuum? It doesn't make any sense to me. And it also doesn't make any sense that the sun's gravitational pull doesn't manipulate the moon's gravitational pull, and that the Earth's gravitational pull is somehow stronger than the moon's gravitational pull. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I think that the reason why space was created was to try and create, like, give a reason to try and explain the existence,
Yeah.
like, and so if you're thinking about, like, God created the universe, the whole flat plane thing, I mean, how do you explain the whole gravity and all that? And just like, if there's a creator, it kind of makes sense. I'm not like out here shouting to the rooftops, I think globe Earth is the way, but I'm just saying, like, science over time has kind of, I think that's all it really is like science's conclusion over the ages to try and kind of explain, even though science isn't all about the creator, I think, like, deep down, science really,
100%.
at the root of science, there is the creator. Like, the basis of science is the creator theory. And I think that space kind of explains it better.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. And like I said, I'm very sympathetic to space. I really am. But I actually would make the argument that a stationary Earth makes more sense for a creator than space does, because it appears to be more consistent in its logic. Like,
well, the only reason why I'm saying this is because, and I know we differ from this from previous conversations, but the difference is that you think you know what the truth is, and I don't know what the truth is.
No, I don't think I know what the truth is. I want to clarify this really quick before you go.
Okay.
There are things that are objectively true. There are. That's my belief. That I believe that there's objective truth, not that I know what the truth is.
Okay. So my thing is, I've always wanted to, like, okay, well, who created the creator or whatever? And that would kind of explain why society moves towards the space theory, because everything is round, everything seems to, like, fit together properly. Whereas you have this flat disc. Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense if you believe that the creator wasn't created by something. Like, it's just, my whole thing is, I don't know. Like, it just seems like, what created the creator, And there's two different mindsets, Well, what created the creator? It's a big mind F, in this whole, like, what created everything. But then other people are like, well, nothing created a creator. The creator is the creator. But it's really hard, like, to fill that gap. It's really hard to fill that gap, is what I'm trying to say here. And I think that's the disconnection.
Well, it's illogical to ask the question, who created the creator? Because the creator can't be created.
Illogical.
It is.
It's
not that it sounds. It is. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I mean, so you think that it's not even worth thinking about, kind of like what the Buddhists are saying, like,
well, no, what I'm saying is that the creator would be the creator. There would be no.
I get it. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I get it. But what I'm saying is, like, so maybe that's the real imponderable question, not worth even asking. Is that really what's clouding people's minds? Is they're questioning who created the creator? Is that what's clouding people's minds?
I mean, you know what? You're right. I think the Buddhists are right on this. What you're saying, that it's like it's not even worth, like, there is no why, there is no how to the creator. The creator is just a creator. And yet the God they believe creates doesn't have an origin. I mean, why would he? So think about it. Like, energy can't be created or destroyed. God is the source of energy. God is energy. So energy is infinite. God is infinite. There was no creating or destruction of it. That's God. Not saying that energy is just God, but it is from the infinite source of all things, which is God, which what we call God. Now, like, people get triggered when you say God because they're like, but they're imagining some big man in the sky with a big white beard. I don't know what God looks like. This is why the Christian belief is like you can't ever try to depict God because God is uncreated energy. So why couldn't you apply that to the same thing to a non-religious side of it? Well, yeah, you could. I'm not making, like, once again, my belief that the Christian God is real and is the true God is my belief. But logically, there is a creator, and I don't know if that creator objectively is a religious creator. I would assume, to me, it makes sense that he would be, but I don't know. So you don't have to necessarily apply it into a religious context because that's why I'm saying we can't describe what God is. So we can call God the universe, we can call God this infinite energy, we can call God a bunch of things, but God is just sort of a catch all phrase. And the way that I understand God is through the Christian faith. I also studied other religions too, but I prefer to uh, use the Christian faith. I believe, in my belief, it's the best religion there is. It's the most coherent religion. It's the only religion that truly deals with evil in any like way, shape, or form. And that's a big one for me because I do think that morality is objectively true. Right? I believe there's objective morality. I believe there's objective truth. So, I think that yeah. So I mean, you guys get it. You guys get what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. I think we covered that one pretty good. I reserve the right to say I don't know on this subject as well.
Yeah, you do. You do, and that's an awesome power. That's an awesome power.
Hey, love free will. Where are you from? What do you want to talk about? Give us a subject.
So, do you believe that some is justified? Well, I think that you have to rephrase the word. Is unaliving another individual ever justified? Of course. So, for instance, Res Snuff 30. Somebody comes into your home late at night and they try to hurt your little baby. Would it be okay to unalive that person? 100%. 100%. And you would, as a mother, that's the motherly instinct.
Yeah, animals do it all the time.
So, yes. Yes.
It's natural. Nature. Love free will is from British Columbia, Canada. Hello. I like your flag. It's interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting choice for a flag since you're from Canada. I'm not saying I like it. I don't really like. I like the American flag because I'm from America. So
yeah,
just because I like to like my country. I like to support my country.
You sound a lot like a fascist, Nick.
Sorry.
That's what people.
I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry.
People will be calling me that when I'm like over here supporting our nation. I'm like, you don't understand. You don't understand.
Love free will. How's Canada going over there?
Oh yeah, did you get affected
with the housing prices and whatnot?
Yeah, did you get?
Do you have somewhere to live?
Did you get affected by the Rogers telecommunications shutting down? And then I have that belief that more people should probably be on. I agree. Well, just supporting a good cause. Okay. So, did you guys get affected by the big internet outage that wouldn't allow? Somebody earlier today, I think it was Super Sus, said that he was affected and couldn't get any cash out, couldn't use his debit card, any of that stuff. Were you guys affected at all by that?
I heard about that. Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know it was internet. I thought it was like electricity or something. I just saw something. I didn't.
Yeah. So
I've been doing a lot of family stuff, man.
That's awesome.
My mom, dude. My mom is going ham. You know how they have crazy cat ladies? My mom's the crazy plant lady, bro. My mom has freaking 7 above ground gardens, raised gardens. If you add 2 of them together, they're the size of a car. So she's got like 7 huge above ground raised gardens with like giant lattices and shit growing shit. She's got like plants everywhere, dude. She's going ham, dude. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
She says she's gonna get a cow, bro.
That's what's up, dude. Tell her I get some raw milk, dude. Fuck yeah.
Oh, dude, we can link up, bro. You should come over and check out my mom's
For
house.
sure.
Go talk to her.
Yeah, we'll talk off stream, but yeah, that's really cool. So we get some answers here. So we got it's back on though, so good. So it says not good. We were down for 24 hours, no debit, no internet for some, no phone. It's back on. Live in northern BC, but support the Dutch. I know no phone, no banking. Remember the Canadian parade? Neither do I. I don't know. Yeah, but so this is why I've been saying that cashless societies are a crazy conspiracy theory. They will never happen because they are too much of a national threat to come into fruition. You will always have access to cash. There will never I know, I get it. You had no access to cash right now because most people have debit cards. I get it. But what I'm saying is you will always have the option to get cash out. You will always have the option to pay with cash if you have cash. They will never go completely cashless. Ever, 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 ever. And if they do, it will fail very quickly.
They won't be right. Oh yeah, that would be it'd almost be like they're purposely trying to collapse things.
And why would they? It doesn't make sense why they would want to do it because big corporations.
Why would they want to do that? It's almost like they're doing that with the farms or something. I'm not sure.
No, because listen to this. I get what you're saying, but then the big corporations wouldn't get any money. The governments wouldn't get their taxes.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't make any sense. It does make sense with the food.
I think there's going to be a huge internet outage here. We haven't experienced it yet, you know. I think it's only a matter of time before there's some kind of crazy internet outage that lasts like a week or some shit. That would be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we might. And
that would probably be the best thing ever for America. Can you imagine how many board games? Dude, board games would be where it's at, bro. That and playing outside, unless it happens in the winter.
Yeah,
that is board game.
I don't know. I don't think you should be in cities if that happens. I think it'll be pandemonium in cities for sure. Then we got Canada is looking at making their own cryptocurrencies on their website. Yeah. You know, you can have what I'm saying isn't I'm a big cryptocurrency guy. I really am. I know that countries are going to make central bank digital currencies, of course. But they're not going to go cashless because other countries could destroy their economies. The wealthiest people could not get paid for their companies if you got rid of the cash to make a transaction. It just doesn't make any sense.
They're not going to get rid of the cash.
They're going to restrict it.
The situation is that they make cash just worthless. There's plenty of it. It'll just be worthless. That's the most likely situation.
No, it can't be worthless because it'll be linked to the digital currency. What will happen, in my opinion, is that they will just restrict the amount of cash you can use at one time and the amount of cash you can have on hand.
Yeah, but which government will be in charge? Are you talking like a U.S. digital currency or?
It'll probably be the United States or China, or a collective of countries.
Or maybe there'll just be different. You know, what if the future, what if the U.S. dollar doesn't become the world reserve currency anymore and it breaks down into sections and it's all digital?
That's what's happening.
You can still use cash in your countries. You can still use cash, but everything else will be digital.
Yeah,
and it'll break down into sections.
So
maybe the U.S., it'll be the West, the East, maybe Africa, maybe even may have their own. South Africa may have their own. Who knows?
So look into the Great Bifurcation. That's what you're talking about. It's this theory that the United States, the Western worlds, and the Eastern worlds will do their own thing, have parallel economies, if you will.
But I'm saying I think there'll be more than just those two.
I know.
To be multiple.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And so if you look into this, it's explaining what you're talking about. And then if you think about what I've been talking about, which is city-states making a comeback, cryptocurrencies facilitating city-states, you then have the diversification of funds, which you're talking about. So the Great Bifurcation explains it on a macro level in a way, and then you break it down into the city states that you would see in America and across the world, where you would have different forms of currency via cryptocurrency, and then in your said nations, as you're saying, you would be able to use the cash. So yes, there are, yeah, that, like, I totally agree with that. And so they can track you more with digital versus cash, 100%. And then I wanted to touch on this really quick. Gold-backed currency will be introduced. Don't agree with that whatsoever. If gold-backed currencies were introduced, you would be further enslaved by the elite. You would be.
Well, Zimbabwe is going back to gold. And I wanted to talk to you about this because I know that you've always said that, like, civilizations go through cycles, and or societies go through cycles. And Zimbabwe has gone through hyperinflation. They've gone through their hyperinflation cycle. The U.S. hasn't gone through that yet, and now they're going back to gold. So, I mean, do you think that potentially other countries are going to go through potentially the hyperinflation? I know that you've been saying deflation, but it's interesting how, Zimbabwe is going back to gold now after hyperinflation to try and combat it. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we've used many different forms of a commodity to be our reserve, to be our money throughout history. So it doesn't have to go back to gold. It can be something new. It can be copper.
It could be.
It could be silver. It could be.
Well, yeah, that's rumor on the block is that that's what it's going to be. It's going to be like a basket of commodities.
Yeah, so that's probably it. But I don't know. I know that a gold standard is not is not in our best interest, because who owns the most gold? Central banks. Central banks.
I'm not sure, like, which country.
No. Just in general, central banks own the most gold. Central banks and the elites, in which most people don't care for already, own the most gold and silver. So it won't help you to have a gold.
They also probably own the most fiat dollars, and they may own the most crypto for all we all know.
Yes, this is true. However, what
do we know what they own?
This is true, but there are more possibilities of transferring the wealth through means of cryptocurrency than going back to gold. Because going back to gold, you're just going to solidify the current regime, which may be good. Not saying it's a bad thing. How can we use a hunk of gold in a useful way if it all goes to I don't see it, people. I don't see its value for the basic person. Yeah, so I get what you're saying, but there is intrinsic value in gold. It's very conductive. It transfers heat pretty well. And
it doesn't corrode. That's the main reason.
Yeah, but I get what he's saying. Like, what does that mean to you and me if it doesn't corrode? It doesn't mean nothing to you and me if it doesn't corrode.
No, it does, because that's why they use it on all the electronics, because it doesn't corrode.
No, I'm talking about for you and me. For you and me, if we just have a bar, because that's the point he's making. If we just hold a bar of gold, then it not being corrosive.
Yeah, well, actually, no, I need to look into this more, but I have heard that, like, in actually ingesting, and you're going to be totally against this, but actually just holding gold and things like that, and I've actually heard, like, eating some of it. There's some value to that. There's minerals in it, and I know that we have different thoughts. We're going to get into the big food rabbit hole.
Yeah, I've heard of people eating like colloidal, like silver and stuff like that. I just don't know if it's good to consume, metals. I think that's an interesting thing. It may be.
I totally get it. Yeah, I think they would just eat just like tiny amounts. I don't know. I actually do really want to look into that more, because I've always been really intrigued. Like, why did the ancients basically worship gold? I mean, that was the big thing. I think they had electricity back then or something, because that's what the main reason. People are like, gold's stupid. No, it's not. Like, you use it for everything, bro. Like, you really don't think it gold has it's way more valuable in society now than it was hundreds of 10,000 years ago. We use it way more now than we did 10,000 years ago because it's in all of our electronics.
Yeah, and I agree with.
Gold is more important to civilization now than it was 10,000 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I could. Well, as far as what we know, yeah, because we don't know what technology's been lost. We don't know what's being suppressed through history. We just don't know. But for what we do know, I would agree, and I would agree also with love, free will, with his statement stating skills are more valuable than are the most valuable asset. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Skills.
And you know why? Because you can use your skills to get gold.
Boom. Boom. Mic drop. You can use your skills to build a house. You can use your skills to feed your family. You can use your skills to help your community.
To have children.
Yeah. Do you believe Sri Lanka is the spark the world needed to fight the elites? No, don't think that way. I'm going to tell you what to think. Don't think about fighting them. That's horrible. It's a horrible thing. Nobody wants that. We have families here. I don't want to go to war with those people. I don't. I'd rather there be no gore, no any of it. I'd rather there be none of it. I'd rather there be no protests like that.
That just sparked a light bulb in my head what they were saying because I've been looking into the Sri Lanka stuff for quite some time now. Remember how I was telling you that there's that big Chinese port that they had built there, and India obviously has a very important factor in Sri Lanka. Like they have a large stake there, and India and China have a very shaky relationship. If you look at in the northern parts of India, they've actually killed, had military confrontations over the past 5 years that nobody even talks about. Yep. That'd be interesting to see what happens if Sri Lanka goes to hell and India tries to move in there and China's like, hey, no, this is our port. We want to still, there could be some confrontations potentially.
Yeah, and I want to add furthermore to what the guy said or asked in regards to Sri Lanka. Sorry, the thing always defaults to the mic on my camera, which is so dumb. I got to make sure I double check that more. But anyway, no, so here's a better way of thinking that. Great chat room with real topics. Thank you. Here's a real way of actually combating this. And you don't even combat it. It's called swimming sideways. I think this is the best way to do it. There's a riptide, and you don't swim against it, and you don't swim towards it if you don't want to be sucked into the riptide. So what do? You swim sideways. This is exactly what we're encouraging people to do here, which is to localize your supply chains and become more self-sufficient. By localizing supply chains, it's very simple. Do the following. Find ways to grow your own food. If you can't grow your own food, help a local farmer. Go to farmers markets, support local businesses, do things in your community that are useful, raise good children, and just be a productive member in your community. Get skills that are valuable for what people need in your area. And you will do much better than trying to combat them. 100%. I think anyway.
Yeah, I've been starting to agree with you more about that. I do think that just swimming sideways, there's really no point in fighting against the system too much. We can speak about it. There's a difference between speaking it and trying to fight it. At some point, whatever. We don't even need to talk about it.
Right.
Fighting is the last resort.
100%.
So yeah, when speaking on it isn't fighting against it.
Yeah. And I would also add that if you want to get political, focus on your local politics. Most people are unaware that the most powerful person in their real world is their local sheriff, their local councilman, their local police, your fire chief. These people are the most powerful people in your real world, not the national world, but your real world. So if you're really concerned on a local level, focus on your local politics. Focus on that. Focus on making sure your churches are good in your local communities, whichever one that you go to. Those things.
Anthony Sturmis, the Dutch is about to pop off. Dutch farmers gone wild.
Yeah, I mean they are, and it is what it is. Like these are, and here's the issue, right? So like with Sri Lanka, as we brought up before, the moral fiber of Sri Lanka's society collapsed long before the economic collapse. The Western world's moral structure, its moral compass, has been lost for a long time. So the morality of a society goes first, and then it's society on an economic level, on a financial level goes. So this goes back to swimming sideways, being a part of your local communities, being effective there. Increase the morality in your home. Increase the morality in your home. Be a good leader. Be a good man. Be a good woman. Be a good husband, wife, son, brother, sister, uncle, aunt, grandpa. Be a good person in your family. Be a moral person. Have standards. Don't be afraid to draw a line. Don't go with lunacy. When somebody says, hey, you have to just play ball in order to make $1. Don't play ball if you know it's morally corrupt and wrong and untrue. Don't ever do that. I will tell you right now that my life has gotten exponentially better from not bending the knee. And Nick has been my friend during the whole process. He's witnessed, me getting fired from my job because I refused to put on a mask. Me not having a job at the time that my daughters were being born, my twin daughters. And now I'm doing much better financially than I was then. We're in a much more stable position. Don't ever, ever, ever cave to the lines. Don't. You draw your own lines. You be a man. You draw your own boundaries and say, my family will not cross this. And then you defend that. Because men have to be willing to die for something. They have to.
Yeah, man. That's a big problem in society. Men need to, that's why there's so many fatherless homes.
Yeah, 100%.
Men need to, I think a lot of people just give up way too easily. It's like the common thing. People just want to give up on relationships because it's easier. They're like, oh, now I have time to go play with my friends because he'll take care of the kids half the time and blah, blah, blah. Like, people don't, like, I don't know. I think there's something to, like, putting in the effort, like you have to, even if you impregnate the wrong person or something, because some people probably have, like, the wrong babies and shit. Like, what do you think about that? Like, if somebody, has, if they think they maybe have the wrong baby mama, like, do you think they should still make it work? Like, be a man, just fucking, this is your life. You sculpt your life, I mean, that's a big thing I believe in. Like, you sculpt your life. Like, you make things work the way you want them to.
So, do the best you can. But if
do the best you can.
If the woman is crazy, if the baby mama's crazy,
if they're crazy, yeah.
If there's crazy,
but
But
you know what I'm saying? Like, people quit too much. Like, people quit too easily.
I'm with you.
Is what I'm saying.
And I'm a firm believer of this. Many people will probably disagree with me, but all men and women are compatible on a biological level. We're all compatible. I don't think that there's anything as my type. I get it. You can have, somebody who you're more attracted to, that you are not only physically attracted to, but mentally, emotionally attracted to. But all men and women are compatible. And so if you make a child with somebody who you feel you're not compatible with, that's not true. You're obviously compatible in some way, shape, or form because you made the child, right? So do the best you can to make it work. If the woman's crazy, do what you can. Unfortunately, in the United States, it's a feminist-centric court system, but do what you can to maybe get more access to the child. And if
men can be crazy too.
Yes, I will say this: if you're a man and you're facing situations like this with baby mama drama, I don't have this issue, thankfully, but I will tell you right now exactly what I would do if I was in that situation, without a shadow of a doubt. if I was told to pay child support and the baby mama was seeing somebody else and I was actually an active father and she was restricting to how often I could see my child, I would either leave the state, leave the country. It'll hurt me. It'll hurt me too. Like, it'll hurt me not to see my child. But you have to pull some reverse psychology to be like, all right, I don't need you then, and I'm not going to pay you anything. Like, once they start doing that, you have to, like, these are hard decisions. Like, I know it's a lot easier said than done, but I feel very strongly.
You would just like never see your kids?
No. So eventually what would happen is there would be a caving on her part for you to come back and be a part of your child's life. And if that doesn't work, it's better than her stealing your money to pay for her relationship while some other dude is doing what they do with her and living with your child. Screw that. Screw that. There's no manhood in sacrificing that. That's totally cucking, in my opinion. Don't cuck. Your child will have less respect for you as a man to allow that to happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. My growing up was my mom lived in Italy, and my dad and my Italian family would treat me well. They would bring me a plate of food, and my mom would have to share it with her and my sister and shit. Like, my mom was stealing eggs from chickens and shit to feed us, and the neighbor bought my mom plane tickets for all of us to fly home and shit. Like, it's like a crazy story.
Yeah.
So, like, life is fucking crazy, and the men can be crazy too and shit. Like, if my mom would have decided to stay there, they were trying to get my mom to sign over custody of me to them, but my mom taught herself Italian and she refused to sign it and shit. Like, crazy story.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for that. So, like, life is crazy. Like, the men can be crazy and shit too. So,
for sure.
I don't know.
For sure. But guys, unless there's any other topics, any other questions, we've almost been doing this for 2 hours. So, I think we're going to get out of here unless you guys have any questions, any comments. We'll give it a couple minutes, see if you guys have anything else you want to say. But it's been good. It's been a good one.
I'd love to go to Italy one day. That would be sweet.
Right there. I'm a woman.
In Italy, they have so many crazy different colored beaches. There's a lot of history there, man.
Yeah, it would be really cool to see Italy. It'd be really cool to see a lot of the world. So, yeah, thank you for coming in here. Thank you for coming in here. And
Big Russ just joined.
Uh-oh. Big Russ.
Isn't he?
Yeah. You caught the tail end, brother. You did. You caught the tail end, man. We're just about to cut the stream. But you guys can all play this back on MOT Media everywhere, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, all this good stuff. So we'll have it up. You guys can check it out. Much love. Thank you all for joining. Peace.
Peace.